Alright, welcome back to inanhour.com. Today we're going to learn how to create a custom style for our template. You are going to need a good grasp on CSS and editing HTML in order to modify a template successfully. The first thing that we're going to do is go into our Joomla files. Now you'll notice here that all the different files are in here for Joomla. We're going to go into the templates folder. We're then going to go into the umaster folder. Once we're here, you're going to notice a whole bunch of different PHP files, different folders, and other things. Don't worry too much about this. What we need to concentrate on are a few of these folders. The CSS folder, the images folder, the layouts folder, and the styles folder. Now the default CSS for the template is stored in the CSS file. Now you're probably wondering, why can't I just edit those CSS files? Why do I have to create a new style? The answer is simple. The company that made the umaster theme, called utheme, will actually release updates to the template if it finds issues. So for instance, if there's an issue with some kind of JavaScript or some kind of cross-browser compatibility with their CSS, they'll actually fix it and release an update. If you ever have to reinstall your template or perform an upgrade and you didn't use a custom style, all your changes would be overwritten. Creating a custom style prevents that and lets you do updates without ruining your page. The images folder contains all the images that are referenced from the CSS files. The layouts folder contains the actual layout of the template. You will need more of an advanced knowledge of HTML and editing PHP files if you want to get into layout modifications. The default layout is usually best for most people. And of course, the styles folder. If we open this up, we'll see that there's actually nothing in here currently. So we're just going to go into our style and we're going to get started on creating a new one. The first thing that we're going to do is we're going to create a new folder in here and give it a name. I'm going to call mine My Style. We're then going to go into this folder and we're going to create a couple more folders. We're going to create one for the CSS. We're going to create one for the images. If you decide that you want to get into layout modification as well, we're going to create another folder for layouts. Back at the umaster folder, we're just going to take a look inside the styles folder. We can see the My Style folder, and if we open that up, we can see those 3 empty folders that we created as well. Now we just need to find out what files we want to modify. Switching over to Firefox, I've got a default Joomla installation with the umaster theme installed and set to default. As you can tell, there's not much there. That's okay, because I'm just giving you the basics on what you need to do here. Now you need to ensure that you've got Firebug installed. So I'm just going to open up Firebug. I'm going to click the select tool, and I'm going to go up. I'm just going to select the date. Now if we look down inside the Firebug area, we can see that the time is highlighted, and on the right hand side it shows us the CSS that's currently applied to it. You'll also notice that it shows you the file that the CSS is contained in. So if you wanted to make a modification to this, you need to go into the layout.css file. We'll go back to our folder. We'll crack open the CSS folder here, and you'll notice that there are lots of different CSS files in here. We know already that we need to look for the layout.css file. So we're going to take that file, I'm going to hold down Option and make a copy of it to our CSS folder. I'm then going to go into that folder and I'm going to open that CSS file into my code editor. You'll notice that the first line in here is importing a CSS file from the warp folder. You should never be making any modifications, changes, or copies of the files stored inside the warp folder. But we do need to reference this file still. Because we just made a copy of this file and moved it, we need to change this path. So instead of having it look back 1 folder and look for the warp folder, we need to tell it to look back 3 folders. So I'm just going to add another slash, a couple more dots, another slash, a couple more dots. We've now changed the reference so it still references properly. You have to remember to do this on all the files that you make copies of. If you don't, when you review your CSS on the front page after you make changes, it might not look right. So the first thing that you need to do after making a copy of a file is ensure that the import URL is correct. You'll also notice when you look in this file is that the CSS for the time isn't actually in here. That's because it's actually contained in this file that we're importing from the warp folder. If you want to make changes, again, do not go into that warp file. We want to make changes and add stuff to this file in particular. So if I hop back over to Firefox and go into the Firebug, I can always right click on here, copy rule declaration, go back to my CSS, find an appropriate spot to put the code, and paste it in. You'll see that it's pasting the exact code in there. And here you can make your changes. Just for this demo, I'm going to make a very drastic change to this just so you can see what we're doing. All I'm going to do is I'm going to make a background, and I'm going to tell it to be black. I'm going to save my file. Now if I go back to Firefox and refresh, there's no black up there. That's because we've created our custom style, but we haven't currently set it to be used. So what we're going to do is we're going to go to our admin page, enter our username and password. We're going to go up to extensions and down to template manager. Once here, we're going to click on Master Default. Once here, you're going to see the two tabs, the General and Profiles. We're going to switch to Profiles. We'll notice a drop-down menu here that says Default. If we click on it, there's currently nothing else there. We're going to click on Add, and we're going to use the exact same name that we used when we created our folder. So this will be my style. We're going to click OK. You'll notice that when you do that, all this information becomes deselected. You get to pick and choose what options you want for this particular theme. First thing we're going to do is check off Style, and instead of Default, we're going to select in there and select My Style, which is the one that we just created. If you'd like, you can select your primary color, secondary color, change your body font, your header font, and your menu fonts. You may or may not want to change any of these. It's really up to you. Personally, I like changing my colors, I like changing my fonts and not being a default Arial font all the time. We're going to make sure that the date is shown because obviously that's the change that I made for this demo, so we definitely want that to be shown. We're going to make sure the two-top scroller is showing. I'm going to check off warp branding and set that to no because I don't want that to be showing on my page. If you're unsure what that is, if I switch back quickly, you can see Powered by Warp Theme Framework. By checking this off and setting it to no, that's no longer going to be displayed. Scrolling down a little bit more, I'm going to check off responsive layout, make sure that's set to yes because I do want a responsive layout. I'm going to leave the rest set as default for now. If you want to change any of these, you can obviously come in anytime you want and change them. I'm going to go up to the top and click Save. Now you'll notice when I clicked Save, it automatically switched this back to default. If you want to make changes to that custom style, you have to make sure before you do anything that you select the drop down and select your style. Now before we move on, we also have to go back to General and under the default profile, switch it from default to My Style. I'm going to click Save. Now, if I go back to this main page and I refresh, you're going to notice a couple of things. One, that change I made saying that we needed a black background for that title is there. The Warp Framework logo is not being shown there. And you'll also notice that the two-top scroller has disappeared, even though we checked off that we wanted it. Now, the only reason that disappeared is because we also took away that Warp Framework thing. As soon as you put something back into the footer, the two-top scroller will show up again. Now if we switch back to our files, go back to that UMaster theme here, I'm just going to close up that CSS file. I'm just going to open up the images file. So you see here that there's a couple of different images currently in here. So like the search box magnifier icon. If we take a quick look at that, we can see it's simply just a search box magnifier. But if you wanted to change this file, for instance, instead of it being gray, you wanted to modify the color to orange. What you would do is first make a copy of this file, just like we did with the CSS. We're going to move that to the images folder here. Inside that images folder, you would then modify this file and make your change with it. So for instance, open it up in Photoshop, change it to orange, save it, and then when you refresh your page, that would now be orange. The same thing goes for the layouts. If we open up the layouts, the only thing that you'd really make a modification on most likely is the template file. So if you want to get into these type of modifications, you'd make a copy of that to your layouts file, go into that layouts folder, and edit this template file right here. So once you've got your style created, you've made those copies, you've changed stuff, you've gone into the back end and you've assigned your style to the template, the only things that you should be editing for future changes is the stuff inside this styles folder. Don't worry about any of the other folders and files here. That's pretty much it. Of course, once you start building your page and getting more in depth with it, you can do a lot of awesome changes. Remember, this master theme is the base theme for every theme that UTheme creates and sells to you. So if you look up on UTheme's website and take a look at a couple of the other templates that they offer, you can see they've got some really nicely designed stuff and some really cool templates, and it's all based off of this one template. So if you're ever feeling discouraged, think about what is possible. That's it. Hope you enjoyed.